The overcast sky hung low over the bustling heart of Tokyo, Shinjuku, a district that never truly rests. Beneath the towering glass facades and congested streets, the city moved in relentless rhythm, unaware of the shift about to unfold. Suddenly, the shriek of sirens tore through the din, slicing through the ordinary with a sharp sense of urgency. Footsteps faltered, eyes turned upward, and the collective hum of urban life gave way to stillness. A tension began to spread, subtle, electric, and unnamed. Amid the pulse of the metropolis, something unnatural had arrived. A tremor shook the city's core, not from the earth's depths, but from something far more unnatural. A colossal figure had descended upon Shinjuku, towering between glass towers with limbs like ribbed coils of living metal. Its monstrous form cast an ominous shadow across the streets, its presence distorting the familiar skyline into something alien. Citizens gathered before screens, paralyzed by disbelief as the skyline they knew crumbled into spectacle and fear. No longer a hub of business and leisure, Shinjuku had transformed into a battlefield. Behind closed doors, alert systems blared and silent commands were issued. And among them, a single name emerged. In an instant, the age of normalcy shattered, and with it, the call for an unlikely savior echoed. Within a modest training ground, thunderous footfalls echoed as two students clashed in a rigorous mock battle. Their motions were swift and purposeful, burning with determination beyond their years. A schoolgirl in standard uniform charged forward, responding to the forceful guidance of her larger-than-life instructor who stood boldly at the center. Fists flew, bodies shifted, and their coordination struck the air like disciplined percussion. Every shout, every strike, reverberated with urgency, not merely an exercise, but a forging of resolve for the confrontation that awaited beyond this rehearsal. The late afternoon sky barely had time to settle before a massive body soared through the air and slammed into the ground with a thunderous crash. A flawless throw, powered by the determined legs of a schoolgirl cloaked in grit and purpose. Dust erupted, shockwaves echoed, yet the fallen figure showed no signs of surrender, only unyielding enthusiasm. Though rattled, his spirit remained firm, radiating from his sprawled pose like a badge of honor. Beneath the sunlit campus and between the echoes of effort, the training persisted. Sweat poured, voices rang out, and hearts burned, because in a world where chaos could strike without warning, strength was no longer an option, it was a duty. The training session ended, and calm returned to the school grounds. Leaves swayed gently in the breeze, as if wiping away the sweat and pressure that had clung to the courtyard. A small group of girls gathered, their voices buzzing with curiosity over one particular connection, the bond between Kiki and Tsuyoshi. Amid the chatter, Kiki stood quietly, her gaze drifting downward before slowly rising, eyes shimmering with a quiet truth. In the silence of her thoughts, an emotion emerged, simple, honest, and burdened with the confusion of youth. She knew there was more behind each stern command, each moment of practice. Yet in a world where duty often overshadows desire, her feelings seemed both fragile and misplaced. For while one fought for humanity, the other began to fight for love. What began as idle conversation on a bustling street had blossomed into a whirlwind of adolescent emotion. Kiki's friends, once skeptical and teasing, now found themselves tangled in the sincerity of her feelings, some laughing, some hesitant, all affected. Amid the hum of the city moving indifferently around them, Kiki stood still, cheeks flushed, a massive ribbon perched atop her head, a comically earnest emblem of courage. She knew that to say something as simple as "I like you" often demanded more strength than any blow she'd landed in training. And in the midst of playful jabs and curious stares, Kiki faced her truest challenge, to reveal her heart without armor. Surrounded by aisles of ribbons, pastel tones, and delicate fragrances, Kiki stood stiffly, like a warrior displaced in a world of softness. Her friends chattered rapidly, their questions poking playfully yet pointedly, trying to unearth the feminine charm buried beneath Kiki's hardened exterior. As she stared at her reflection in the mirror, she didn't see the fighter she trained to be, but a girl quietly questioning her form, her stance, her very presence. A warm flush crept up her face, unfamiliar and unwelcome, as if her body betrayed her battle-ready discipline. Yet beneath the blushing uncertainty, her instincts whispered the same truth: no matter the battlefield, whether laced in steel or scented with perfume, she had to be ready. Always ready. the once quiet lingerie boutique erupted into a chaotic swirl of giggles, blushing faces, and relentless persuasion from Kiki's overly eager friends. Amid rows of lace and candy-colored frills, Kiki stood frozen, confronted by an unexpected kind of training, learning how to be more girly. Hands tugged, voices insisted, and suggestions flew like arrows at her hesitant heart. Her thoughts churned in silent conflict, Tsuyoshi's sincerity, her own awkward sense of self, and the idea that maybe changing her appearance could change how she's seen. As her phone buzzed quietly in her pocket, Kiki's expression remained firm, her gaze steady. This was a battlefield of a different kind, where identity, doubt, and external expectation waged war in silence. Just as Kiki sank deeper into her embarrassment and indecision amidst frills and friendly chatter, chaos returned like a sudden storm. A familiar bellow cut through the air, and their towering instructor crashed into the boutique with his usual absurd flair. Kiki froze, heart racing, not from fear of a monster, but from sheer panic at being seen in such a compromising, unfamiliar light. But the news was urgent, another monster had appeared. The shift was instant, jarring, playtime was over. As the laughter died and adrenaline took its place, reality came crashing in with the weight of responsibility. The battlefield called once more, and Kiki had no time left to hesitate. Their eyes locked, one wide with confusion, the other heavy with guilt. In that instant, the oversized ribbon atop Kiki's head became a symbol of her internal tug-of-war. She looked down, shrinking from the gaze that reminded her of the world outside, a world that didn't wait for moments of self-discovery. Before her stood him, unrelenting, reminding her that she wasn't just a teenage girl, she was a designated defender of mankind. Yet as her friends rallied in her defense, insisting she deserved this sliver of normalcy, the weight of duty loomed larger. When a call from the Prime Minister's office gets ignored for a shopping trip, it's clear, this wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was the clash of a quiet wish and a thundering responsibility. Amid a storm of clashing voices, duty, emotion, identity, Kiki stood frozen. Tsuyoshi's words rang out sharp and unwavering. Not cruel, but absolute. I never saw Kiki as a woman. A declaration not of spite, but of the cold world they shared, a world that placed purpose above personhood. The words hit harder than any monster's strike. Kiki didn't flinch. She stared straight ahead, wide-eyed, not in anger, but in realization, something within her had shifted. Her friends called out, desperate to pull her back into something softer, something personal. But the alarm of duty thundered louder. The city was breaking, the enemy growing, and Kiki had no more time to hesitate. Kiki walked briskly, almost in a rush, as if trying to outrun the voices behind her, but more than that, she was fleeing from the uncertainty swelling inside. In her mind, Tsuyoshi's misunderstanding wasn't a rejection. It was clarity. If the world didn't see her as a girl, maybe she didn't need to be one, not now, not here. A quiet ache pulsed beneath her chest, but there was no time to feel it, not when a greater duty loomed. Behind her, her friends stood still, words caught in their throats as the weight of their earlier encouragement turned into unintended pressure. And on the bench, she left behind lay the ribbon, once worn with timid hope, now abandoned, a fragile emblem of what it meant to choose responsibility over self. Amid a city paralyzed by fear, Kiki stood alone facing the towering grotesque form of a monster that tore through Shinjuku's skyline. The creature loomed with eerie power, a symbol of chaos in its purest form. But Kiki did not flinch. With her hair swept by the wind and her school uniform fluttering like a banner, she stepped forward, not just as humanity's defender, but as herself. The doubts were gone. The questions of identity, silenced by resolve. We exist to fight monsters, her conviction rang out, unwavering. And in the sharp focus of her eyes, there glimmered something quiet and profound, pride, not just in her role, but in who she had chosen to be. Cheers erupted behind the barricades as Kiki stepped forward, her uniform flaring with each resolute stride. Civilians, soldiers, and even Tsuyoshi watched with breath held, every eye resting on the girl they called a savior. The monster still loomed ahead, casting its monstrous shadow over the city. But it wasn't the creature's size that threatened to crush her, it was the doubt echoing quietly inside, what the hell am I doing? In the chorus of voices demanding strength, Kiki bowed her head for a moment, caught between purpose and identity. Yet when she raised her eyes, there was fire in them, not the fire of certainty, but of choice. If she was going to fight, she would do it as no one else but herself. All eyes turned in confusion as Kiki stood before the looming monster, not in her battle armor, but in a plain school uniform. She had rushed out and forgotten her gear, but that no longer mattered. No reinforced suit, no official crest, just her. And somehow, that made her stride even stronger. Behind her, soldiers and civilians watched, torn between awe and concern. But Kiki didn't look back. She inhaled, then bent slightly, not in reverence, but because her skirt was embarrassingly short for a battle. High above the city, face to face with an enormous threat, Kiki stood firm, or at least tried to. But beneath the roar of the crowd and the looming monster's presence, her mind spiraled into an entirely different panic: her underwear. The thought struck like a lightning bolt of shame. What if Tsuyoshi saw? What if the world misunderstood? Embarrassment, absurd and overwhelming, bubbled up from inside. In her mind's eye, she pictured Tsuyoshi's horrified reaction, exaggerated, dramatic, and completely imagined. And still, it rattled her. She clenched her thighs together, bent ever so slightly, and muttered inwardly, "I have to hide it, no matter what." Kiki soared through the air, her body slicing the wind after a strike that defied gravity's grip. The monster had taken a brutal blow, but in the middle of what should have been a triumphant moment, a very different panic took over. Her legs lifted high, her skirt flared wide, and the resolve she had forged was suddenly under siege by pure, unfiltered embarrassment. This wasn't about defeating evil. This was about dignity. Gasps rang out from the bystanders. Her friend screamed in alarm. And Kiki, clutching the hem of her skirt with both hands, braced for impact, not with the ground, but with the full weight of awkward exposure. In that instant, it wasn't just a fight against a monster, it was a duel against shame itself. The monster's grip crushed around Kiki, lifting her and flinging her upside down with terrifying force. The city spun beneath her feet. Her body tumbled through the sky like a ragdoll, caught in the grotesque rhythm of chaos. As gravity took over and she plunged downward, her instincts fought not just to survive, but to preserve a shred of dignity. Her hands reached to hold her skirt down, her knees drawn tightly together in midair. The creature, indifferent to shame, hurled her toward the earth. And when she struck the ground, it wasn't only the impact that made her gasp, there was something deeper, something smaller, but no less cutting. In a battle to save the world, Kiki was still fighting for something entirely her own, the right to not be exposed. Kiki lay collapsed in the fractured street, her body cloaked in dust and the sting of a temporary defeat, while the monster receded triumphantly into the haze of destruction. Without her combat suit, she no longer resembled the heroic figure everyone had grown to admire. What remained was a young girl, trembling, her dignity pierced by a shame she hadn't prepared for. From afar, those who once cheered stood frozen, unsure whether to doubt or pity the faltering spirit before them. It wasn't her physical strength that had vanished, but the flame of certainty dimmed by the weight of self-consciousness. And in that stillness, beneath the gaze of a world unsure what to believe, Kiki slowly realized that the true battle wasn't over, and the fiercest enemy left to face was her own sense of shame. Kiki knelt amid the rubble, her legs folded beneath her, hands limp, and her gaze cast downward into the dust. It wasn't the pain that weighed her down, but the shame, the fear, and the unraveling certainty that perhaps she wasn't strong enough. The line between hero and teenager had blurred, and now she stood, alone, between both roles, unable to claim either. Memories surged uninvited, the sting of childhood taunts, the humiliation of being seen, the quiet ache of rejection she thought she'd buried beneath strength. All of it returned at once. Around her, the world waited for her to rise, but inside, she remained collapsed. Unless she moved now, unless she chose to act, it wouldn't just be the battle that was lost. It would be the will to stand at all. The memory returned with painful clarity. Kiki, as a child, curled up in the schoolyard, tears streaking her cheeks while cruel laughter rang around her. Back then, she wasn't a hero, just a lonely, timid girl who felt like nothing, too small to fight back, too ashamed to stand. But through the noise and jeers, one voice rose, not in scorn, but in defense. Tsuyoshi stepped forward, not as a savior, but as a friend. In his quiet defiance, Kiki had seen something she didn't yet possess: courage. And now, surrounded by rubble and fear, that memory flared not to reopen wounds, but to remind her of the first person who ever believed in her, long before she could believe in herself. Amid the rubble and haze, Kiki's trembling form began to steady, not from fear, but from a force long dormant stirring to life. The echoes of childhood came rushing back, Tsuyoshi, standing firm against the world, not because he was strong, but because he believed in her. She had never forgotten that, the moment someone saw worth in her before she could see it herself. And now, seeing that same boy still standing for her, even as a child against an unstoppable monster, Kiki understood she had always searched for a reason to fight, when the reason had been with her all along: Tsuyoshi. Her heart, once silent, screamed with resolve. And in that instant, her stance changed. She was no longer just a girl in a school uniform, she was a protector, a hero, and most importantly, herself. Kiki sat collapsed among the debris, trembling not from pain but from the weight of emotions crushing her spirit. She felt defeated, not just as a fighter, but as a girl, as a person. In her heart, she believed she had failed to be a hero, failed to be someone Tsuyoshi could see, failed to be herself. Voices of doubt echoed in her head, telling her she wasn't strong enough, not worthy enough, never enough. But in that darkest moment, a voice she knew so well cut through the haze. "Look at me!" From a rooftop far above, Tsuyoshi stood tall, his small frame unwavering, his eyes never once doubting her. And suddenly, in a world that had gone dim, that one voice lit a spark in Kiki's chest, a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't done yet. Tsuyoshi, a large-built man, stands confidently atop a building wearing nothing but a tight black swimsuit that reveals his muscular frame. With his chest puffed out and arms crossed, he exudes fearless boldness, as if declaring that shame should never stop anyone from embracing who they truly are. His striking presence becomes a silent symbol of support for someone struggling with insecurity and self-worth. Kiki was completely taken aback by Tsuyoshi's heartfelt declaration as he stood confidently on the rooftop. Tsuyoshi admitted his past mistakes and acknowledged how he had hurt Kiki with his dismissive attitude, particularly for once claiming he didn't see her as a girl. Realizing his true feelings, he now wished to take back those words and show that he genuinely cared for her and would protect her. This moment captured Tsuyoshi's sincerity and courage as he tried to make amends and openly express what he had come to realize in front of everyone. Kiki froze in silence, her eyes wide and cheeks blushing, caught off guard by the unexpected compliment. In that moment, all her previous doubts and insecurities seemed to melt away, replaced by the warmth of genuine recognition. For the first time, she felt truly seen, not just as a fighter or comrade, but as herself. A wave of emotion swept through her chest and lit up her expression, a blend of gratitude and happiness she could no longer hide. Through Kiki's unwavering courage despite her embarrassment and self-doubt, Tsuyoshi finally came to see that she was not just a strong hero, but a whole person, a girl with feelings and dignity. His admiration evolved into a heartfelt acknowledgement of Kiki's charm and humanity, shifting his perception from seeing her merely as a superhero to recognizing her as a vibrant, warm, and beautiful girl. This moment didn't just change how Tsuyoshi saw her, it also deeply touched Kiki, who, for the first time, felt truly accepted as her full self, no longer needing to hide who she was. Amid the uproarious and enthusiastic crowd, Kiki is caught off guard by unexpected support from those around her, including her friends who cheer her on by boldly embracing themselves. The spontaneous reaction from the soldiers and civilians, who join in with uninhibited excitement, creates an atmosphere that blurs the line between hero and community. This moment delivers a powerful message that Kiki is not alone in her struggle, and that shame is not something to hold on to, it can be overcome through solidarity and acceptance from those around her. In an atmosphere charged with unity and energy, people from all walks of life come together, stripping down as a show of moral support for Kiki. Men and women stand side by side, shouting encouragements, forming a powerful wave of solidarity and acceptance. This overwhelming support from every direction starts to break through Kiki's feelings of shame and inadequacy. Surrounded by such raw and heartfelt encouragement, she begins to feel the warmth of community and the strength that comes from those who believe in her, reigniting the courage she had nearly lost. With the cheers of the crowd still echoing around her, Kiki finally let go of all her doubts and shame. In an explosive moment of courage and self-acceptance, she tears off her uniform and reveals herself unapologetically, not as a display of vanity, but as a powerful declaration that she is no longer afraid to be her true self. This act is not merely physical, but a symbolic emergence of her inner transformation and renewed determination to fight without hesitation. Amidst the intense pressure and the enemy looming before her, Kiki catches a large bow thrown from afar by one of her friends. With a resolute motion and a determined expression, she fastens the bow on her head, not just as an accessory, but as a symbol of self-acceptance and the newfound strength she draws from confidence and the support of those around her. With fiery determination and a bow on her head as a symbol of newfound strength, Kiki lunges forward toward the giant enemy threatening the city. Her body soars through the air, ready to strike, while from behind the glass of a building, her form blurs past like a flash, an emblem of courage no longer restrained by shame. With unshakable resolve, Kiki dives from above and strikes the giant monster with a powerful blow that reverberates through the city. The force behind her attack carries not just physical strength, but a declaration of self-acceptance, courage, and the full embrace of who she truly is. Amid thunderous cheers and unwavering support, Kiki soared through the sky, clutching the massive monster in her arms to protect the city and those she loves. Her heroic act inspired the entire city to unite in a powerful roar, witnessing the truest form of bravery come to life. With all her strength fueled by resolve and courage, Kiki locked the monster's body and slammed it down with her ultimate technique, creating a powerful impact that shattered the ground below. This act displayed not only her physical power but the depth of her determination to protect everything she holds dear. A tremendous explosion erupted into the sky, obliterating the top of the skyscraper where Kiki had delivered her final strike. The thunderous blast shook the city, but below, the crowd watching from afar raised their arms in celebration, cheering triumphantly for a victory achieved through courage and sacrifice. In the peaceful school courtyard, Tsuyoshi and Kiki are seen training together enthusiastically, encouraging each other with laughter. Their friends watch from a distance, recognizing that the two have forged a strong bond through courage and extraordinary experience. With proud smiles, they welcome Kiki as part of their circle, while Tsuyoshi stands tall with pride, finally feeling he has something to be proud of. With a calm and confident expression, Tsuyoshi declared Kiki as his cute girlfriend, surprising and touching everyone who heard it. As the atmosphere filled with joy and energy, Tsuyoshi cheered Yamada on to stay focused, while another friend excitedly called for an important discussion. Amidst the cheerful commotion, the bonds of friendship and love grew even stronger. Amid the usual pressure of training, Kiki shyly expressed a simple wish to go on a date. He felt that sometimes, without intense training or battles, he just wanted to enjoy a normal moment as a lover. With a blushing face and a nervous heart, he sincerely admitted his desire to spend meaningful time with Tsuyoshi. Despite the loud encouragement and shouting around him, Kiki's courage to express such a heartfelt feeling brought a warm and touching atmosphere to the scene.